Hello, everyone. This is Wes Fryer here in Oklahoma City. It is November the 16th, 2020, and I am happy to be able to share this presentation with you for the Emergency Home Learning Summit. The title of this presentation is Sharing a Class Recording with Minimal Steps, and I will be sharing some resources that I put together this past summer and have worked on this fall for our school and for our teachers that I hope will be of assistance to you. And if you'd like to access this slideshow, you can visit the shortened link wfryer.me/lessoncast. You can also use the QR code there with your phone or tablet to be able to access these slides, and these slides do have links on them to the other resources which I will be talking about. So I have been trying and successfully using LectureCasts for quite a while, actually for over 10 years. I almost wrote my dissertation on the topic of LectureCasts when you're really more in a higher ed format, wanting to take every single lecture presentation from class and then allow students to have access to that, ideally within a podcast feed that they could subscribe and get real easily on their phone or their device. So when we think about remote learning and emergency remote learning, we're in a variety of different situations. Sometimes we are able to teach students face-to-face, but we still need to give our audio resources or video resources, our lesson content to our students. And so that's really the idea here behind what I've called a lesson cast. If you're interested, by the way, in connecting with me or accessing any of the other things that I'm sharing, that website, wesfryer.com/after, has a variety of those links. But we're not going to talk today just about audio recordings. However, we're also not going to talk just about expensive commercial solutions. There are a variety of different tools and options. Some of the ones that our school has been trying are the Meeting Owl, and then we've also been using the Swivel. And so these are commercial products that you can get, and they allow you to be able to record a presentation and either send that to students for them to view afterwards or to do that live. At our school, we have chosen not to require any teachers to connect live to students that are outside of class. We have a number of teachers doing that. But we do obviously need to be getting that content to students. So that's kind of where this whole project came from. And so what I'd like to go over first is really just an overview of lesson casts. I chose the term lesson cast rather than lecture cast because, especially for elementary teachers and teachers of young students, I mean, we don't think of ourselves very often as giving regular lectures. Obviously, we do present content and deliver content, but I thought lesson cast might be a little bit better of a term for this. I've got several different icons here with Google Tools. We are a Google school, and so primarily Google Drive is the tool we've been using. However, you can use other video conferencing platforms like Zoom to do this. And again, one of my goals was to try and make this process have as few steps as possible to be able to share. Now, let me also say at the outset, there are a lot of ways to record what I would call quick edit videos or no edit videos, but usually you might want to do a little bit of editing and screencasting, as I'm doing today with this wonderful program called Loom. I've been using Screencastify for quite a while and use that with my students, but I really do enjoy using Loom for recording. That's usually best to record a short lesson, but the lesson cast, again, is this idea that you have this face-to-face lesson that you're sharing with students, but you want to have a way of quickly or as easily as possible getting it to them. So let me talk a little bit about lesson casts. Lesson casting, as I'm defining it here, is not a live video conference with students who are remote. And I would also say it's not a best practice for remote learning. The best practice is going to be to develop lessons that are specifically created for students who are learning from home. But sometimes, we can't do it all, and that's probably been one of the hardest things for us at our school. We went back face-to-face on August the 14th, 2020, and fortunately, knock on wood, we've mostly been able to still be here at school. We have had some grade levels in our high school for 2 weeks, ended up going remote, As I record this, we're anticipating the Thanksgiving holidays, and nobody knows what's going to happen. But for most of the time, we've been able to continue face-to-face, in-person instruction, but we have needed to have students and share content with students who are at home. So this isn't, I would say, a best practice, but it certainly is something that has been needed because we've just had the requirement of getting this content to students who are not able to attend class in person. A lesson cast, as I'm defining it here, is a recording of an in-class lesson shared later. It's a way of sharing content with students, and I would say it's a way of sharing video with a minimum number of steps. So that's basically what the lesson cast is in this definition. Now, there are a variety of tools, as I said, that you can use for this, and the primary one that we're using is Google Meet. We have actually upgraded to what's called Google Meet Enterprise, because in order to record your Google Meet now, you can't just use the free version of Google Drive. So that's fairly significant. Now, to my knowledge, Zoom is still providing free accounts for teachers that are not limited. So you have an unlimited recording. So depending upon your situation, you may end up using different tools. But what I have found is that using Google Meet, specifically with Google Calendar, can really provide the fastest way to be able to get this recording and get have the minimum number of steps. You certainly can also use Google Drive, and it's really beneficial if you can to publish on YouTube. One of the reasons for that is that YouTube is optimized for user-end devices as well as connection speeds. So if students are on a phone or if their internet connection is not very fast, they're going to be able to receive a smaller version of that file because YouTube, it's called transcoding, but it encodes or compresses the video into several different formats that are optimized for different situations. But those other procedures, and I have videos that I have created that I'm going to be. I've got the link to that you are welcome to use. All of this is, I should have maybe said this at the outset, licensed under a Creative Commons license, which means please just use it freely. You can give attribution to our school or to me, but the content of all this is available, and there's also step-by-step instructions to be able to do these. So what I'd like to do now is actually take you to this website and kind of walk you through this. So I'm going to go ahead and link out here, and we'll kind of go through this a little bit. This is the main LessonCast website, and I guess I should back up real briefly and let you know that we have a technology support website for our school, which is at support.cassidy.org. And when we started Emergency Remote Learning back in March of 2020, this was a website that we had already started, but then we ended up orienting it really for teacher support. So currently, as we look at this today in November of 2020, we've got the resources for lesson casts right here. And then we've also got teacher-created videos featured as modules. But there are a lot of other modules that we have on this. If you go underneath Teacher, and you select modules, there's just a whole bunch of different tools and resources, all of which, again, are licensed under a Creative Commons license. What I would say under Teacher Created Videos is, in terms of thinking about what procedure do I want to follow to create my videos, I think the question first off is, how much time do you have? If you have very limited time and you are presenting a face-to-face lesson and needing to get information and content to remote learners, then the lesson cast is probably the choice for you. But if you have more time, it can be a best practice and much better for students for you not to just record your entire lesson, but to actually create something smaller. And so we have resources available for these other kinds of videos that I'm not going to cover and address in this video presentation. But you can access what I would call a no-edit video, which is just recording, boom, going, to record and not needing to do any post-production at all. Just record and go and send. A screencast, which is what I'm doing right now, recording my screen as I'm talking. a narrated slideshow, and then also an edited video. So those are all different kinds of teacher-created video. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the LessonCast resources. And if we scroll down here a little bit in terms of lesson casting, I've got these organized depending on what kind of a device you have. So this is lesson casting with a laptop, which we'll talk about first, but if you scroll down below, there's also options for lesson casting with an iPad. Actually, I think I might mention this first because this is one of the fastest ways. If you have, this wouldn't be for a full lesson actually, but if you have like 10 minutes or less of content to be able to share, it's really good to know you can directly record and publish that video right into Google Classroom. That was an aha several months ago, working with our teachers and figuring that out. So this is a video that kind of goes over those steps of how you can just be using the Google Classroom app on your iPad just to directly share, but it has to be 10 minutes or less. That's a pretty major limitation. Let's talk a little bit about laptops. So all the teachers at our school have a MacBook laptop, and so being able to connect to either Google Meet or in some cases we have teachers using Zoom, even though that's not our supported platform. Those are video conferencing platforms, but they're also platforms that support recording. So there is a almost 13-minute video here that kind of goes through those steps, and I want to go ahead and link below to the step-by-step instructions. I don't know what kind of a learner you are, but one of the things I have found being a technology coach and instructional coach with teachers is that a lot of teachers really do want and need step-by-step instructions. And so that's what this Google document is, and you're welcome to use this. You can copy this, remix this. As it says here, in order to record after September 30th of 2020, Google schools have to actually pay for each user who is going to be able to record. So that's a requirement here if you're using Google Meet. If you're using a Zoom account, either a free unlimited account or a paid account, you should be able to record as well. And so it'll be a little bit different here. So the steps here are sometimes just for initially they're one step, the first time procedures you need, and then every time recurring procedures. So what I recommend that you do first, if you're doing this with Google Meet, this is one of the best things about recording with Google Meet, is it immediately puts your recordings right into Google Drive, and it does it in a folder called Meet's Recordings. So when you have had at least one recorded Google Meet, you'll have this folder. Just go to your Google Drive, look for the folder Meet Recordings, and then I recommend you go ahead and either two-finger tap, or if you have a mouse, right-click that and choose to share that. And you can share that entire folder so that anyone with the link can view it. This is a very good technique when you use Google Drive and you're going to share files and folders regularly with people. You can make that folder where it is view only, and all of the contents inherit the sharing rights, and that means you don't have to individually, manually each time go in and change those sharing settings. Your files that you put in there should inherit those settings. So that's the first thing that I recommend you do. Now, to make this a minimal steps activity, I recommend doing this with Google Meet. So you are going to, first off, go to Google Calendar, and you're going to open up a new calendar event, and you're going to add your Google Meet conferencing. When you are ready to start recording, you don't need to invite students again because the LessonCast isn't a live video conference. You are just going to start the Google Meet video conference, and you're going to start recording, okay? But you're the only person that's actually in that recording. You're going to want to make sure, of course, that your camera and your microphone are on, and then I recommend you go ahead and share your screen. That way, everything you do on your computer as well as your camera is going to be recorded and part of that recording. You want to wait till you see that red record up in the upper right corner, and then I recommend, this is always for doing videos, you introduce yourself with your name, the date, and then what you are talking about. I try to teach my 5th and 6th grade students to do that as well. Whenever they're recording a screencast for me or any kind of audio recording, that lets me identify really quick, and anybody who has the file, who's talking, when was this recorded, what is this about. You can save a little bit on memory and the use, and your computer may go faster if you choose to just share a Chrome tab. So if you're not using another program, but you're just using Google Chrome to share a Google presentation or other kind of document, that can actually be better just in terms of the amount of memory that is taken on your computer. So that's what you're going to do to get started, and then you're going to teach your lesson, and then when you're done, you're going to go ahead and just hang up. You don't have to click stop recording. When you click the red phone icon there in the Google Meet, it's going to close it. You can actually just close the tab as well, and that hangs it up and is going to finalize the recording. So when you're done with your recording, you're ready to share the link, and you can do this a couple different ways. If you have students who are at home learning, you could invite them after the event to that calendar event, and they're going to have a link right there inside the calendar to that recording. Now, it takes a little while to process, so depending upon how long your recording is, it's not going to be ready immediately right after you stop your recording, but it will be ready, within an hour, certainly, because it just takes Google server some time to process it. And I think that's the fastest and easiest way. You also can go find the recording in your Google Drive. It'll be in that folder called Meets Recording, and it has a link, and you could send that specific link to students. So it's just going to depend upon how many students you have and what's going to be easier. If you have a number of students in Google Classroom, you can also post that link into Google Classroom. And because you have it set so that the entire Meets Recordings folder is set to read only, then no matter what Google Classroom or link that you put that in, it should work so that they'll be able to view that. So that calendar sharing method, I think, is probably the fastest. And so I've got some instructions about that, and then you can link to that tutorial video. So that's the main number one way I recommend doing a lesson cast. We had a webinar that we did about this back in August, and you can check that out as well. Let me just say a couple things about the iPad, then I think I'm going to be done with this presentation. You can also use an iPad to record a lesson cast, but the Google Meet app does not actually have as much function as just using the Safari app or even the Chrome browser if you want, but we use mainly the Safari browser app on the iPad. And so I recommend, and the instructions here are available, that you don't use the Google Meet app, but instead you connect to your Meet recording using Safari, and then you're going to go ahead and record. So again, the same one-time step applies here. And I also put in here to extend your iPad storage space, you can set the default recording. This is important because a lot of us don't have huge iPads at school. Don't record at the maximum, setting for your iPad. If you've got a very new iPad, it may even record in 4K, but you don't need to really record in 1080. You can record in 720p, that's DVD quality, and that is plenty good. So I've got those instructions in here. The steps are pretty much the same. You're just going to be using your iPad. And so I would still, go ahead and, well, in this case, you're not going to create a calendar link. You're just going to be clicking record. But after class is over, then you're going to go ahead and upload the link, and you're going to be sharing that link. So this is actually recording, not using, Google Meet at all. This is just recording with the camera and Google Drive. It's another option. Very last thing I want to say, and I've got this last, is if you want to be teaching with your iPad, the iPad can't simultaneously mirror content to an Apple TV and also let you record. So what do? The technique that I have recommended here is to use a program called Air Server. That's what we have licensed at our school. There's other ways that you can use this, but your computer, your laptop, is what shares the video conference, but then you're able to connect directly to your computer with your iPad, and you can teach. And so I've got those instructions here. So lots of content to consider and lots of ideas, but I hope this is helpful to you. I want to wish you well, and please reach out. Let me know if this is helpful to you, and let me know what you're doing to be able to share your class recordings with your students with a minimal number of steps. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.